not as a victim, not as a hero, but as a 57-year-old woman who destroyed the very life she was trying to save. I once believed love was enough to justify anything, that if your heart was in the right place, the choices you made in its name would somehow be forgiven by time, by life, by God. Now, at 57, I know that is not true. Love does not erase consequences. It does not untangle lies. It does not rebuild the trust you chose to burn. I loved my husband in the quiet, ordinary way that lasts. He was not rich or famous or extraordinary to the world, but he was extraordinary to me. He warmed my car on winter mornings. He knew how I liked my coffee without asking. He reached for my hand in public, even after years of marriage, when most couples had stopped touching at all. Our dream was simple: a small home, shared routines, and the sound of little feet running down the hallway, calling us mom and dad. We didn't want luxury. We wanted a child. For a long time, hope was our closest companion. Every month, I would count the days, watch my body for signs, and take test after test in the bathroom with trembling hands. Every negative result cut a little deeper, but we told ourselves, next month. Then came the doctors, the tests, the cold fluorescent lights, and clinical words that felt far too small for what they carried. The day the doctor said my husband was infertile, the air in the room seemed to disappear. My husband's shoulders sagged in a way I had never seen before. He did not argue, did not cry, did not shout. He just stared at the floor, as if every hope he had secretly held had been swept away. On the drive home, he barely spoke. When I tried to bring up other possibilities, adoption, donors, fostering, he cut me off with a quiet, pained, "Not now." From that moment on, a subtle but undeniable shift took place in him. He began dodging questions from friends about children. He skipped celebrations that revolved around babies. He would look away when he saw fathers playing with their kids, his jaw tightening, his eyes growing distant. Every casual remark from others, "Gita, when are you two going to give us a little one?" stabbed him. Because I loved him, I felt those stabs too. The idea that would destroy us did not appear as some outrageous proposition shouted in anger. It slipped out late at night in the darkness, when the world was quiet and defenses were low. We were lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, when he asked me if I had ever thought about other ways to have a baby. I thought he meant adoption or medical intervention and began to speak in that direction. But he interrupted me with a question that froze my blood. What if his brother helped us? At first I laughed, certain it was a terrible joke. But he did not laugh. He looked at me with hollow eyes and explained that his brother looked like him, shared his blood, and that people would assume the child was his. In his mind, it was a painful but logical solution. If he couldn't give me a child, his brother could do it for him. I was horrified. I told him no. I told him it was wrong. I rolled away from him in bed, appalled at the suggestion. But that night planted a seed. A twisted one, yes, but a seed all the same. In the weeks and months that followed, he returned to the subject again and again. At the sink, while washing dishes, he would mention how much his brother respected me, how he would do anything for our happiness. In the car, driving past playgrounds full of children, he would grip the steering wheel tighter and say we could fix everything if I would just think about it. His arguments shifted from the practical to the deeply emotional. He began to call himself broken, a failure, a man who had stolen motherhood from the woman he loved. I remember one night more clearly than most. I found him sitting alone in a dark living room, the television off, his face wet with tears he wasn't bothering to hide. He told me he dreamed of a son, a little boy running into his arms, laughing, calling him Dad, learning to ride a bike with his help. He said that every time he woke from those dreams, he remembered the diagnosis and felt like the dream was mocking him. Then he begged me. He said it could be one night, one mistake we never spoke of again, one sin for a lifetime of happiness. That phrase wrapped itself around my heart. I did not agree that night, but part of me, worn down by his grief and my own longing, weakened. I wish I could say I was forced. I wish I could say someone made the decision for me. The truth is that I allowed myself to be persuaded. My husband brought his brother into the idea. Under the excuse of helping with repairs, his brother came over one weekend. There was a strained stiffness about him, the look of a man caught between loyalty and terror. I overheard pieces of their conversation in the kitchen, enough to know my husband had already asked him to do the unthinkable. When his brother came out, he couldn't look me in the eye. The reality of the plan settled on my shoulders like weight I wasn't strong enough to lift away. That day moved like a fever dream. My husband eventually announced he had to leave to get some parts and would be gone for a while. When the front door closed behind him, the house became painfully quiet. His brother and I sat on opposite sides of the room, both of us knowing exactly why we were alone together. He admitted he had told my husband it was insane, but that my husband had insisted this was what he wanted, that it was for our happiness, for my future as a mother. He told me he cared too, that he wasn't there for his own pleasure, but for him, for you. That framing, the idea that this betrayal was some kind of sacrifice or gift, pushed me over the edge I had been standing on for months. I could have stopped. I did not. That is my sin, and no amount of explanation changes that. I let everything my husband had said, every tear he had cried, every word about being broken and unworthy, pile onto my conscience until it collapsed. I told myself I was doing this to save him, to save our marriage, to build the family we wanted so desperately. I told myself it would only be one night. The act itself was nothing like the movies. There was no romance, no passion that made us forget the world. It was awkward, clumsy, and heavy with guilt and fear. I cried silently, seeing my husband's face in my mind. When it was over, I scrubbed my skin in the shower until it burned, as if I could erase what had been done. His brother left without many woe. My husband came home later with careful hope in his eyes. He did not ask for details. He did not even say the word. He just held me as I shook and told me he loved me, whatever happened. Weeks passed. Then the nausea began. The missed period. The shaking hands holding a pregnancy test. 2 pink lines. I sank onto the bathroom floor and sobbed. I was carrying a child who did not belong biologically to my husband. A child conceived in betrayal and confusion, yet a child who would be deeply wanted by him. When I told my husband I was pregnant, his joy was overwhelming. He laughed and cried and thanked me for giving him back his life. Every thank you felt like a knife sliding into my ribs. Still, I smiled and played my part. Pregnancy became a cage of secrets. At every ultrasound, every appointment, I watched my husband beam with pride and tenderness while I silently drowned in guilt. People congratulated us. Friends said our son would probably look just like his father. Sometimes my brother-in-law was present, and our eyes would meet briefly, 2 co-conspirators in a lie that was now growing fingers and toes. We looked away quickly each time. The day our son was born, my husband held him and sobbed with gratitude. He said he never thought he'd get to feel that moment. Watching him cradle a baby he believed was his own broke me in ways I still struggle to describe. I loved my son fiercely. Whatever his genetic origins, he was mine. I had carried him, birthed him, fed him, soothed him. That love was real and remains real. But it existed alongside a lie that infected every smile, every family photo, every proud moment at school. I learned to divide myself. Part of me was the loving mother. Another part was the devoted wife. Another part was the liar who had stolen a truth. My husband had every right to know. My husband believed this had been one sin buried in the past. Life, however, does not freeze at a single mistake. It moves, evolves, tempts, twists. His brother continued to be present in our lives. He fixed things around the house, brought gifts, helped with our son. The more he held the boy, the more I saw the quiet ache in his eyes. The awareness that this was his child in blood, even if not in name. Our shared secret, our shared love for the same little boy, drew us together again. It began with words, with a moment in the kitchen when I told him he was a good father, and he answered bitterly that my husband would never see him that way because he didn't know the truth. That conversation cracked something inside me. The guilt and gratitude and emotional entanglement hardened into a different kind of connection, one that eventually became physical again. I cannot excuse what happened next. The affair resumed and did not stay a single lapse. It became a pattern, one that stretched over years. During that time, he married someone else. She was kind and innocent in all of this, and I participated in hurting her too. By then, our sin was not just one night meant to fix a problem. It was 2 marriages being betrayed again and again. I grew older. The lines on my face deepened. My body changed. Yet the secret remained, strangely ageless, a shadow that followed me everywhere, Eventually, the truth surfaced, as it almost always does. My husband walked in one evening on a scene that confirmed what his instincts must have been whispering for a long time. He saw us together. The silence that followed was more terrifying than any shouting would have been. When he asked how long, the answer, since after the baby, landed like a hammer on the life we had built. When he asked if the son he had poured his heart into was biologically his, I felt a final chance to lie, to protect him from that pain. I could not do it. I admitted the truth. The sound he made in response was not just anger. It was something deeper. The noise of a man realizing that his most cherished role, father, had been taken from him before it even began. In that moment, I saw clearly what I had done. Not only cheated on my husband's body, but stolen his right to know the truth about his own life, his own family. He left quietly, with a soft click of the door that echoed louder than any slam could have. That was the day my marriage ended, though the legal and practical unraveling took longer. Now, at 57, I live with what remains. My son is no longer a child. He has questions about where he comes from, questions I have had to answer with painful honesty. The extended family is fractured. My marriage is gone. My brother-in-law's marriage is gone. The web of lies that seemed to hold everything together eventually tore everything apart instead. Do I regret what I did? Yes, in ways that words do not fully capture. I regret betraying my husband's trust. I regret the years of deceit, the countless small choices to continue instead of stop, confess, or pull back. I regret the pain etched into his face that last night. Pain I replay in my mind like a punishment. And yet, I cannot regret my son. He is the one innocent person in this entire story, the one life that came out of something so wrong, yet is, in himself, something deeply right. That is the paradox I live with. Loving the person who exists because of my sin while knowing the cost of his existence. If my confession serves any purpose beyond my own need to speak the truth, let it be a warning. Beware of the lies you tell yourself in the name of love. Beware of the idea that one small sin can be contained, that you can control where the fallout lands. What starts as a desperate attempt to fix one kind of pain can create wounds that never fully heal. At 57, I no longer believe that love alone justifies crossing the lines you know in your soul should not be crossed. Love is not meant to demand that you betray your deepest convictions. When it does, what you are serving is not love, but fear and desperation. This is my life now, not behind bars, not under formal judgment, but living each day with the knowledge that the laughter, the family, the moments I once prayed for were built on a foundation of deception. My punishment is memory, the look in my husband's eyes when he realized the truth, the quiet way he walked away, the question in my son's voice when he asked who his real father is. I am 57 years old, and I carry all of this with me. This is my confession, and these are the consequences of what I chose to do in the name of love.